Welcome back, everyone. Perhaps no one has worked harder at getting to the bottom of 9/11, specifically the Sarasota connection to 9/11, than former U.S. Senator Bob Graham, who was the co-chair of Congress's investigation into what happened. Senator Graham joins us right now from Miami Lakes. And Senator, if you could refresh our viewers' memories in terms of what is the issue in terms of the family, the Saudi family that lived here in Sarasota, and their connection to the 9/11 hijackers.
Immediately after 9/11, a number of the neighbors around this home in Prestancia called the FBI and said that there had been some suspicious activity around this home. Some of them even saw pictures of the 19 hijackers and thought some of those were people that they had seen at that home. That started a 6 months FBI investigation. A report that said there were many connections between the family living in that house and 3 of the 19 hijackers who were doing their flight training near Sarasota. The FBI kept that information away from the public. In fact, it even issued a public statement to the fact that there were no connections between the hijackers and the family living in Prestancia. Finally, a federal judge demanded that the FBI release documents which had previously been classified for his review. He has had those now for over 3 years and has not yet rendered an opinion as to which of those 80,000 pages can be made public. In a nutshell, that's where it is now.
What do you suspect is in those 80 pages of documents?
I don't like to engage in speculation because this is a situation where there are going to be known facts. It's just that at this time, the public has not been given access to those known facts. But I think some of the areas that will be covered would be what were the nature of the contacts between the Saudi family and the 3 hijackers. There seems to be good evidence from things like the gate records taken at the entrance to Prestancia that there were a number of contacts made. Was this Saudi family involved, for instance, in providing financial support for the 3 hijackers? The family left their home in what were described as urgent conditions: new car in the front yard, clothes in the washer, food on the table, and fled back to Saudi Arabia approximately 10 days before 9/11. Why did they leave? What were the persons or events that caused them to feel that they would better be in Saudi Arabia than Sarasota on September the 11th, 2001?
Of course, the Florida Bulldog, which is an investigative reporting organization based in South Florida, has filed a Freedom of Information lawsuit to try to get access to those pages. You have been supportive of it. Earlier this summer, a federal judge said that the FBI has not deceived anybody in terms of holding back information that of the information in terms of the 80 pages out there and what's in it. Are you disappointed by that, and how much more difficult does that make to finding answers?
Well, the facts are a little bit challenging here. The Sarasota investigation is still in the hands of the federal judge to whom the 80,000 pages of documents were delivered. We're waiting for his determination of how many of those are going to be released, and then can find out what was in those documents. There's another instance in which the FBI had largely established a 3-person commission known as the Meese Commission, after a man who had been a former Attorney General, Ed Meese, to evaluate how well the FBI had responded post 9/11. The documents of that commission have been classified. particularly a portion of that commission's work where it dug into the Sarasota situation. It was our feeling that if we could get the materials from that commission, that would be another insight into what happened in Sarasota. It was that situation where a second federal judge ruled initially that the FBI should be required to release much of that information. Then in a subsequent order, in a more limited basis, required release. So we know more about Sarasota than we did a year ago, but there's a lot that we don't know.
The Congress signed or voted for a resolution supporting the release of this information. It was opposed by the Obama administration. The question is obvious in terms of why wouldn't even the Obama administration not want this information to be released to the public?
That is an enigma. With the Bush administration, you can think of several possible reasons why it would want to withhold information. The one that's most persuasive to me is the Bush administration decided that it wanted a war with Iraq. That was before 9/11. 9/11 became the pretense for going to war with Iraq. And as the informations started to flow into the CIA and the FBI, indicating that Iraq actually had nothing to do with 9/11, but Saudi Arabia was deeply involved in the build-up to and execution of the plot. The response of the administration was to essentially hide all the information about the Saudis' involvement. That's the best explanation of how we started this process of what I call aggressive deception, telling the American people one thing in the public, but in private, withholding the information that could refute what was being said publicly. Why the Obama administration continued that, to me, is a mystery.
What do you think the chances are that the Trump administration will do a 180 on this? After all, President Trump has not been shy about taking shots at just about anyone around the world, with one notable exception, the Saudi government. He was in Saudi Arabia a couple of months ago. Do you think there's any chance that that President Trump will reverse the position of the Obama administration and the Bush administration before it?
I hope so, and as a candidate, he indicated that he was going to be more forthcoming. As a New Yorker, where, of course, most of the affected families were from the New York region, he probably had personal contacts with widows, parents, and others who lost a loved one at 9/11. Hopefully, he will direct his agencies to be much more forthcoming, starting with the FBI. But as you said, his first foreign visit was to Saudi Arabia, and it was a love fest. And whether that indicates that, in fact, he's going to continue this policy of covering up for the Saudis and engaging in telling the public, knowing that there were contradictory facts in their own classified files, is something we'll find out, I hope, in the next few months.
Finally, we have less than a minute left, Senator, but what is the essential question that you would like to see answered, not only about 9/11, but Sarasota's connection to it?
I think the essential question is and has been, did these 19 people, most of whom didn't speak English, had never been to the United States before, didn't have a particularly strong educational background, did they carry out this highly complex plot alone, or did they have help? I think the logic of the matter indicates that they could not have done this without some assistance. Who provided that assistance? What was the nature of that assistance? Why is the federal government now, 16 years later, still withholding that information from the American people? Those are what I think are the central questions remaining for 9/11.
Senator Bob Graham, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll be back in just a moment.